Hi, I'm Hung Yi Krakauer, and welcome to The Right Scene. I'm here with three guests who are here to tell you an intriguing story about Queens. Please help me in welcoming Nina.
Hello.
Alvin, and the Africana Madonna, Barbara.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and I am a very big fan of all of your work. I think it might be really great if we start off by telling our viewers a little bit about yourselves as writers, and in particular your relationship with Queens. Nina?
Well, I grew up in Queens, part of my childhood.
Hooray! Yes.
And I became a writer, I think, because I loved reading magical books when I was a child, books about magic, ordinary children who had magic adventures. And even though a lot of my career I've been a journalist writing nonfiction, I managed to come back to my first love and write a book of fantasy for children, basically 8 to 11, about the ages I was in Queens when I was writing it.
Can you tell us a little bit about that period of your life in Whitestone?
Yes.
Again.
Yes. Well, soon after, actually when I was about 3, we moved to London, first Rome and then London. My father was a journalist. And when we came back, we lived in a house in Whitestone with a big backyard. And I think partly because we had British accents at that point, and other children kind of made fun of us, we spent a lot of time in that backyard making up stories and playing magical games and reading a lot of books. And that was my, I think, my ambition really was always to write the kind of book that I had loved reading when I was a child. One of the best experiences really of my life as a writer, and this is after a really long career as a newspaper reporter for Newsday and the New York Times, was going back to Whitestone and giving the first reading at the library there, where I used to go with my older sister and get a whole basket full of books. And we would always wait, close our eyes at the end and pick one book by chance, you know, to give magic a chance. It's the idea that there might be a magic book there. And in a sense, I feel like that's what I try to do, is to write the magic book that we wanted to read.
Well, Nina, my son, who you so kindly signed a copy for, is going to be 10 years old, and he did a book report on that book last year.
So nice.
And he was just delighted because I think he was infected by that love of magic. And for a 10-year-old weaned on SpongeBob SquarePants and video games, I thought that was so wonderful when he said, I'm doing my book report on that fantasy.
Magic by the book.
Yes, and I said, that's wonderful. I just thought that was a great tribute to the passion that you felt for that magic or that whole sense of fantasy. So I did want to thank you for that, because he...
Oh, that's great. Well, I did try to put in all this adventure. There's a lot of daring do and escape from wolves and Robin Hood and things that boys will like as well as girls.
I think that's what it was.
Yes.
He related to some of these adventures in a way that he probably never thought could be possible through his other means of entertainment. And so I think that's really the power of literature and the power of books, to open that kind of creative thinking in a child.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Alvin.
Oh, great. No, it's great to be here. As you know, I was born and raised in Flushing, when it was still Flushing and not Flushing yet. It's a good time to be here, too. So what we're working on now is Actually, it started as a memoir monologue called "The Last Emperor of Flushing." That's my unofficial title. I'm not, I'm not really the last emperor of Flushing. But,
and those are some of the images.
Yes,
right?
yeah,
If you could
exactly.
give us a little explanation about that.
All right, I'm in my costume, the traditional Cantonese opera robe, and I'm holding what I call my death of a salesman suitcase. You know, one of these real 50s jobs, brown and worn out and everything. And I'm in front of the Unisphere. That was, of course, the centerpiece of the 64, 65 World's Fair. Before it was the centerpiece of Men in Black. Men in Black, they were climbing all over it.
Yes.
And that's actually taken because the piece premiered at the first Asian Cultural Festival at Queens Theatre in the Park. So just like going to the Whitestone Library, it was great to do that piece for the first time right here in Flushing at Queens Theatre in the Park. And it's all about the irony of growing up. I think we're all similar generations here. When we were growing up, we were one of the few Chinese and few Asian families in Flushing. That shows how old I am. And it was bizarre that by the time we reached adulthood, it was the second Chinatown, but all the Chinese were primarily immigrant Chinese who only spoke Chinese and didn't speak.
Do you speak Chinese?
Very little. Like we're Toisan. That's like we're like the Sicilians, who are very, very loud, very farmers, very very loud, belligerent. Not very good with the fine points. Definitely heart over mind. Went to the rooms. Like fist and heart first. And then the mind comes about a few days later. So that's what the Toisans are like. And we were the primary Chinese immigrants in the Chinatowns from the late 19th, late 20th century, and then it really changed, and it really started in Flushing. So that feeling of that comedic feeling of disconnection is what The Last Emperor of Flushing is about. It's like a lot of people just looking for your identity. I think in that age, everyone just would do anything to fit in, and there was actually a way to fit in. And so the piece looks at that, and it's all about how the world has changed, and how I think a lot of people bought into this. I guess like a lot of people, you're born into a certain mindset, and by the time you grow up and you're ready to take your place in the world as an adult, it's like that mindset is gone. It's like that whole value system has changed, and we're all just trying to scramble to pick up the pieces. So this is just how we do it from my particular angle.
Is that piece a poem? Is it a piece of prose?
It's a little bit of everything. So it's prose. It's prose. I lip sync to the Who's Tommy for a little bit, and I look just like Roger Daltrey, But and now I'm happy. Hopefully, I'll be holding up soon. I'm doing a prose expansion of it now, and I guess until it's time for publication, I'm still deciding what it's going to be of a memoir or fiction. But I hear there's a new genre now called faction that everyone's talking about. So maybe I can have the best of both worlds, called a piece of faction.
Faction, I like that.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Barbara, tell us about yourself.
Well, Barbara is a queen from Queens.
But of course.
Absolutely.
Hello, of course.
Also known as the Africana Madonna. And I was raised in Queens through foster care. I come from a family of 15 children, and I am the baby.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And in both families, I was the youngest child. And I grew up in the era of the 60s and 70s. And that was a transformation period of Queens as well, because I was part of the school busing era. And having the experience of being in foster care, which was a wonderful experience. I grew up in the same household, unlike the foster care system that we currently experience. But I had experienced home visits with my family, my natural family, and then, of course, living with my foster family, which I want to just say family, and let's not break down the boundaries. But through that experience, I also experienced going to the school busing process. And I was bussed out into other neighborhoods, the predominantly Irish and Italian neighborhoods, Polish and Jewish.
Which neighborhood was that?
The Middle Village in Glendale. And I attended school in those areas. And through those experiences, as well as my own catharsis of realizing I came from two different households, that spawned the seed of poetry within me. And I began writing approximately 7 years old. Between 7 and 8 years old, and coming in to understand or grow into my own identity.